Good evening. Hey, sorry I'm a little bit late. We're still trying to get our slides put together. Hemi's just now getting home. And I did not intend to have Saunders' poopy butt as our bot right now. So it's
Whoops. Let me change.
so I'd like to welcome everybody in. We got the hamster. We got Rusty, Sergeant Grinch, St. Troglodyte, Radical Rafter, Johnny Midnight, and a few other guys. Oh, we get Kansas City. Ooh. Do you think they have a
Coach.
do you think they have a shot at the title next year?
Go Chiefs.
What's up, RO? Hey, hey, mouth agape ape. Yo, man, Latopia, Dane Bro. Welcome, boys. Welcome, one and all. Megatron. And of course, as I start talking, Sam decides he wants something. So that's just the way it is. Whenever you're ready, Hemi, if you could bring up the first slide, we'll get right into this. Because why do I say that psychiatrists and psychologists are a bunch of grifters and their suicide? I mean, their recovery for people who go under their care. Do you know of any other doctor out there who has a 40% rate of curing their patients? 40%. Think about it. If you broke your leg, 60% of the time you'd stay crippled. Oh, it doesn't happen with real doctors because they have real diseases that they know how to fix. Well, there's real diseases out there and mental illness. But guess what? These quacks and charlatans and grifters and con men don't know how to fix them. In fact, less than half the time, 3 times out of 5, they have no idea what the fuck to do to make somebody better. There's studies. They got Clark 2018 and Lanyard and Clark in 2015. They put this out there. Isn't that something else? They're saying the recovery from a mental illness is defined as the person no longer meets the diagnostic criteria of a mental disorder and seek little or no treatment for the mental disorder during a follow-up period. All right? But most of the time, when people get mentally ill, they relapse within the year. Funny how that happens, you know? 40% success rate. It's worse, Mr. Grinch, worse than marriage. We always complain about how awful the odds are for getting married. Well, your odds of getting better if you go see a shrink are worse than if you get married. These people are absolute fucking parasites. And not only that, they're ideologues because they're the motherfuckers who determine what normal is. That's right. These are the guys that get to define what normal is because they publish a book. Second slide, please. Depending on where you live, if you're in America, you get the DSM, or if you're, somebody that follows the WHO, you get the ICD. Well, they keep changing what the definitions of insanity are. And they're doing this to fit their political ideologies. When I was a boy, all kinds of stuff was considered crazy that's not considered crazy anymore. When's the last time you heard any woman being diagnosed as a nymphomaniac? It doesn't happen anymore because now it's just a hoe phase. That's right. Fucking insanity is being normalized. They're telling you that you can go out and fuck anybody you want, no problem, hundreds and hundreds of people, and you're going to be all right. But no, in the past, people would look at that and meet the people who did that type of thing and go, wow, they're fucking crazy. Same thing goes for almost all of the alphabet stuff. It was all at one time considered insane. Every last bit of it. So, what do they get right? Certainly not their chronology, because the people who, you know, if you're not in government, some type of a, insurance adjuster or something like that, these clinical diagnoses don't do crap for you. Here it says it very, very concisely. They've been criticized for their lack of reliability, validity, and clinical utility. That means the people who use these books know that they suck and they have absolutely nothing to contribute to the welfare of the patients under the care. But they're good for actuaries. Oh, yeah. Isn't that nice? Isn't that great, brothers? Aren't you glad that the United States spent, oh, $210 billion in welfare funding these people, and approximately 5 times more than that was doled out with private insurance. That's a good grift, folks. Nearly $1 trillion. But it gets better. Next slide, please. Now, the true indicator of whether or not it's a severe mental illness is if they kill themselves or kill other people. Because that's when you get really wackadoodle. But look at that. The second leading cause of death in our children. Our children, adolescents, ages 10 to 14, is suicide. It's the 12th leading cause overall. And in some states, it's much, much worse. Places where the economics are hard, like here in Oklahoma, where I am right now, they have billboards up. For young men between the ages of 19 and 25, suicide is the second leading cause of death. All right? Now, our mental health professionals out there don't really prevent the suicides from happening. Look at that. 46% of the people who took their lives were diagnosed to have a mental illness. Wow. 3 times out of 5, these guys get it wrong. And half of the people under psychiatric care who want to kill themselves do so. 90% of the people who commit suicide, if people had been listening to them, if people had been paying attention, 90% of them exhibited signs of mental illness. Why don't people fucking figure out that somebody's got a mental illness? Because the mental health professionals we have don't know what the fuck mental health is. They know political ideology, they know how to bludgeon the general populace, and they know how to fucking stick their hand deep into everybody's pocket. All right? Guess what? Next slide, please. 79% of suicides in the United States are men. 79%. Nearly 80% 4 times out of 5. We were always led to believe that it was 75%. But according to the American Psychological Association, they've known this. Yeah, I've done my research now since the year 2006. 79 when they first started tracking it. Because before then, they weren't tracking it by gender. 79% of suicides are men. How much fucking care is out there? People just don't give a fuck about men. The psychological professionals out there don't give a fuck about men. Human error, you say that men are more effective. You're correct. When you judge it by attempts, it's about 60-40 in the female's favor. But you could also say that they're not really trying to commit suicide, because a lot of them report that it's a cry for help. Next slide, please. Across the U.S. economy, $193.2 billion of earnings. Not how much it costs, but this is how much the people who have mental illness and serious mental illness, not just being a little depressed. That's how much money they lost in not getting paid for doing their jobs. That's not their productivity or anything like that. That's lost wages, $193.2 billion worldwide. Depression alone, just depression, costs the world economy $1 trillion a year, every year. And I'd say that it's probably more if you count in the suicides. That you know, you figure it the men, and it is mostly men who won't ever be able to contribute to society again, and count them in. I bet you it's double that. Next slide, please. This is how much it costs you every year for taxes. This is the Social Security portion, the Medicare, Medicaid, all that. $280 billion were spent on mental health services and drugs, which don't work 3 out of 5 times. All right, let's go back to the video of our faces, or at least my face. So, do you guys feel like spending in the United States $280 billion? Yeah, it's what, about $800 a person per year to support these folks? Hmm? That make you feel good? Feel like you're being ripped off? I do. They're not hardly curing anybody. They say, like if I went to a heart surgeon, if I had anything less than a 96, if that doctor had anything less than a 96% success rate, he wouldn't be able to get insurance. Yeah, you're asking a good question, humanure. What should we do with them? Well, first of all, we need to bring back the mental institutions and supervise these people in a place where it's very hard for them to take their own lives. Second of all, we need to get some more realistic diagnosis tools, because right now ideology isn't fucking cutting it. The There was quite a bit less mental health problems before about 2000. We've had over an 80% jump in the number of mental health instances that are being diagnosed out there. That tells you that either one, they're diagnosing more people who may or may not be sick, or two, the instances of mental health are increasing over time. Probably because, well, we let psychologists into our education system and they're raising a bunch of fucking weak children who don't know how to handle the problems of life and will result, if you're a weak person, you're going to have anxiety, you're going to have depression, and you're not going to have the hope and the skills to solve life's problems. So maybe you'll just pow, end it all. Hey, MV, Rusty. I'm going to open this up, and I'll take one person at a time tonight. Hemi, do you have any thoughts?
Those are some sobering statistics.
You're damn straight they are. You know, we have an element of society who, well, they pretend like they're medical professionals, but they're not. They're not dealing with a science. They're guesswork and fucking ideology. Guesswork and ideology. That's what we got. And people are dying because of this shit. Dying because of incompetence. Dying because of graft. Dying because charlatans are out there fucking pushing their political agendas on people who don't know how to handle it. And the young are the ones who pay the most. The young. Our children are fucking dying by their own hands in record numbers. Our children are fucking 25% growing up these days, are graduating as some type of the alphabet mafia. They're having these mental disorders. And don't get me wrong, a sexual dysfunction, a sexual deviance is a mental disorder. It goes against humans' need to propagate the species, to grow society into the future in a stable and sustained way. And it wasn't you or I, but it was Psy who said that these sexual deviances are now normal and are no longer considered mental illness. But they are still mental illnesses. They go against nature. They go against, in my opinion, God's plan. And when you violate your human nature, when you violate the Lord's plan, you go insane. It fucking happens. Look around. And the people who are violating and facilitating these types of behaviors in people are promoting drug use in our society to a great extent. Alcoholism, because people in pain will self medicate. They medicate our boys when our boys act like boys when they're boys. How many times has your teacher at school sent your son home saying he's too rambunctious? And he must have ADD. And that's all it takes to get him hooked on head meds. All right. So there's the link. One at a time if you want to come in. If you don't, I drove 12 hours today. This is fucking terrible shit that's out there. Anybody? MV, you got to turn on your microphone. Meek to have values. You got to turn on your microphone, brother. There we go. All right.
On yet?
You are on.
Yeah. And nice discussion. Nice discussion, Brandon. 12 hours is a long time to drive. Yeah, well, I thought it'd come on.
Yep. So, what's on your mind, sir?
Well, let me see. I was thinking about when you called it a mental illness. And I'm thinking that it's not a mental illness. That term mental illness was started, I looked it up in the 1930s to try to stop what they called, stigmatizing the condition. But it's not an illness in any sense of the word that we know illness. It's not like you got a cold and you get over it, you lie in bed, you get over it. No, it's not anything like that. So
You're correct.
This is an attempt to change the reality of what this thing is. Whatever causes someone to be insane is not an illness. And what we're seeing today, as you pointed out, is that people are driving themselves crazy. We didn't have this issue, 50, 100 years ago, and we don't have it where we live. Where I live, we have crazy people, but it's not that many, and we don't have a big pharma here shoving these psychiatric pills down everyone's throats. But I think part of the effect of calling it an illness is that you normalize it and you make it just another thing. Oh, I got a cold. Oh, I'm crazy. It's the same thing. It makes these things equivalent, and they're not equivalent. They're not equivalent at all. And what happened is that now you cannot ask people about their medical situation, which is, do you have diabetes? Do you have cancer? Blah, blah, blah. But now we can't ask, are you nuts? And so these people get into positions and they start making decisions, and they're nuts. I'm sorry. And a broken clock is right twice a day. And these people sometimes seem reasonable, but other times they're just saying nutso things, and you don't know that they're on psychiatric pills. You don't know that they're crazy because you can't ask. And what I think we see is that if you're in a small company or a small group, you won't get hired because they can figure out you're crazy. But in big bureaucracies like the government, like Google, like any of these things, the crazy people seem to migrate there because they get hired. Because probably the people who are hiring them are also on psychiatric pills, and they can identify the dilated pupils and the crazy thoughts. Say, oh yeah, I want another one in here. I want another one in here. I don't want to be alone.
We have laws that prevent you from discriminating against them.
Yes, that's it. But it's not the discrimination against someone. They're crazy, and they should solve the problem first. They should solve the problem and get to the root of it. And then, I think due to the gender war, as you pointed out, so many young people are confused and have been made confused, and that we're in a war and there will be casualties. These are casualties of a war. And as the war continues and grows, there's going to be more and more casualties. But MGTOW is the center of the solution to this. MGTOW is the place where young men can go to know that, oh, I'm being driven crazy purposefully. You just forget about it. That's what we say. Forget about it. Move on. Grow a great beard and be a man. Oh, God, that's a great beard, Brandon.
Well, thank you very much. All right.
So anyway, that was my 2 cents worth. I'm sitting here this morning having a little Malibu for breakfast. I ran out of coffee, so I'm doing a little Malibu and milk for breakfast.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, Aro. Been good to hear from you again, man. You got to
Nice
start
here.
making more. You got to start making more videos.
Yes, I'm thinking about getting back up, just trying to get things finalized here. Went through some stuff and got it taken care of nicely. Anyway, nice chatting. I thought I'd come up and give my 2 cents worth. I'll get out and let somebody else come on. Keep
Thank you very
trucking.
much.
Keep on trucking.
Thanks for your
Stuff.
input.
Say what, Hammy?
Thank you for your input. Haven't heard MV in a while.
Yeah. Well, here's Rusty Rivers. How you doing, sir?
Man, me and Viper just got done working. We was working late tonight. We got a lot of stuff done. Man, we was tycooning. No, Brandon, I had a few general things to say and a couple of specific things to say. I think number one, most of us are already aware that the psychology field, whether it be psychologist or psychiatrist, which is a big difference because only the psychiatrist can prescribe medication,
Right. They're actually
has been
MDs.
taken. Yeah, it's been taken over by women. It's been taken over specifically by feminist women for the most part.
And communists.
Yeah, agreed. I wanted to give you an absolute specific example of that. You see, in the cluster B personality disorder spectrum, which is narcissistic, borderline, histrionic, and antisocial, the psychologists and psychiatrists, which are mostly women now, as we just stated, they are not wanting to diagnose women that come in that clearly have all of the markers for borderline personality disorder. Instead, they are diagnosing them with CPTSD, complex, trauma. And the difference between PTSD and CPTSD is that with complex trauma disorder, it is an event that has happened multiple times, as opposed to PTSD, which could only be triggered by one event. And a lot of our soldiers, suffer from PTSD just from one event, as an example. The reason that these feminists do not want to diagnose their fellow women as with borderline personality disorder is because it is well known in the industry that there is no cure. Borderline personality disorder is one of the most rampant disorders amongst women today. And it is a direct result of being raised in single mama households. Because narcissistic and borderline personality disorders on the spectrum, they are caused by early childhood trauma. Those traumas are usually the result of abandonment, like, where's my dad? He's gone. They're also the result of a sexual abuse situation. They're also the result of an uncaring and unattentive mother. This is why most women today, all these young guys, in this modern dating world that we have today, they ain't got a fucking chance, because the odds of them getting together with a narcissistic or borderline personality woman is so high. I mean, we're talking about like 7.5 to 8 out of every 10 women today that were raised in single mama households, you know, experience early childhood trauma. And you see, when they experience the early childhood trauma, it arrests their development. And this is where we get the, you know, the psychology word arrested development from. This is also one of the reasons why they never mature. They are always little kids. And, you know, we hear this all the time in the manosphere about how women are today. And this is one of the fundamental reasons why that is. Now, the single mamas households that are raising men, raising boys, usually those boys turn out to be what we call son husbands. And this is also why we have the term soy boy. And this is all a direct result of the single mama epidemic that is sweeping Western civilization everywhere.
Yep. Well said, Rusty.
Yep.
I'll add to that.
Very well said.
What he's saying is absolute facts. Number one, most women are 5-year-olds with breasts, right? They either have an absent of a father or they grew up with a weak father that was cucked by the wife. But I would say this, I'd go one step further. The reason dating is fucked for everybody, relationships will not come back, whether there's a magnetic EMP storm or a solar flare. These women are medicated. It has literally rewired their brains. They are literally damaged goods. And it's just not 1 in 4. I mean, my daughter's medicated. The ex-wife medicated her. And it's even women in their 40s are on Xanax. They're on Wellbutrin. They're on all these. Now, if you have true depression, that's one thing. But they're being put on it because they can't handle life without their phone, right? They can't handle life outside of social media. So the whole issue, piggybacking on Rusty said, good to see you, Rusty, and Hemi and everybody else in True Blood, is there's no coming back. The programming is too deep. Someone said, but Rab, if there's a world war, the women are going to get back in line. Oh, really? Okay, they might, sure, for food and water and shelter and protection. But what happens when the war ends? They go back to programming. Again, another reason why relationships are literally, they're dead.
Yeah, True Blood, could I say something else?
Yeah.
In psychology, there is a major theory. And I do believe that it does hold water, although, you know, one of the reasons why psychology is a pseudoscience is because there's no empirical data that you actually can hold in your hand, you know, and measure and weigh or disprove. But the theory of attachment style, I do believe, holds water. And there are 4 major attachment styles. There is the secure, the anxious preoccupied, the fearful avoidant, and the dismissive avoidant. Now, as it turns out, just as I previously stated, because of this rampant epidemic of single mamas, those households are producing young girls and turning them into fearful avoidance or dismissive avoidance. And these are women that grow up with a fear of abandonment. So, like, for example, they could be involved with a guy in a relationship, and the guy could be a great guy. I mean, he could just be absolutely fantastic, everything that she ever could wanted. She starts subconsciously fighting against herself because she believes that she's not good enough, that she doesn't deserve love. And this is the result of the idea of abandonment by the father, either in reality or perceived. But it happens in her mind. And so we're getting all these dismissive avoidance, all these fearful avoidance. And what happens is that they convince themselves, he's going to cheat on me. He's going to leave. So I will beat him to the punchline. And so that guy comes home and all of her stuff is gone. There's no trace of her. And one of the telltale signs that she was along the spectrum is that there's no closure. There are so many men that are experiencing relationships today that abruptly end, and they have no closure. And that in itself creates in psychology what is called a trauma bond. And it's very destroying.
Well, what Rusty's doing right now is what the psychologists all love to do. He's trying to apply logic and reason to insanity. And that is one of the reasons why psychology has failed. Psychiatrists have failed because of this very reason. We're trying to say, if this, that, and that happens, then this other thing will happen, and this is why. And quite frankly, it's all just fucking guesswork. Whatever sounds good,
I agree.
you think it sounds good, but prove it. You can't.
There is no proof, True Blood. There's no empirical evidence.
And how do we cure it? I don't know, and neither do the psychologists.
Well,
that's the fucking thing.
You look at when I went through therapy with the ex 10 years ago, both therapists were women and divorced themselves. It's literally the blind leading the blind. It's a big way to make money. It's, look, you want to have, I'm in the healthcare industry. I sell into pediatric hospitals and I've met a lot of pediatricians who tell me that 7 to 12-year-old kids, 7 to 12, 48% of them see a therapist once a week because of the anxiety. So can we fix it? Yeah, really? Yeah, I have an idea. You'd have to get rid of all technology and then go crazy for a week without it, right? They'd be just going through the roof of anxiety and craziness, and going back to play and smear the queer and all the other old games, right? And how we grew up. But I don't see it going back. I don't ever see it going back. I don't see relationships ever improving. I mean, people continue to say there's going to be an event that's going to change everything. No, there's not. There might be for like 6 months. That's it. The programming's too deep. The narrative is too built. The women's brains have been rewired, not 12-year-old. Have you heard of the Sephora girls now? There are these girls that are between 7 and 10 that are watching TikToks. They go to Sephora stores. They're into the makeup thing now, fixing their nose so their nose looks thinner, do Botox, trying to get shit on their face and literally putting their pictures on TikTok. It's called Sephora girls. Their mothers are taking them and spending hundreds of dollars on this, some sort of makeup. They call it the drunk elephant. And these little girls now, 7 to 12-year-olds, they're all in it. What you tell me what's going to happen in 10 years when a girl is getting attention from people on TikTok? She's being bullied by others. She doesn't look good enough. I mean, it is a literal absolute shit show. So I appreciate when guys like Rusty and everybody else comes on and talks about this, because if you believe that women are going to change, you have retardation in your brain somewhere. They're not. Number two, if you think you're going to fix a relationship, you also have something in your head that's not working. You have a mental issue. The best thing you can do is work on yourself and literally sit back and watch the shit show. Because you get involved with a woman, I tell you, these women today, they're all nuts. I say 99% of women are not worth it. I always give a 1%, but good luck finding them. But they're nuts. They're medicated. They're on their cell phones. The programming. 50-year-old women think they're princesses. 50-year-old women. Why do I know that? My sister's one. She's 50. I've met multiple 40-year-olds that think they're princesses. They literally think they're 20-year-olds. It's delusional. And it doesn't matter if they're Christian, religious, what have you, well-educated. They've turned into a mouthy Oprah, loving just gash. So that's my soapbox.
Hey, True Blood, I can't give you just one example of empirical evidence. I mean, we have the data, we have the statistics, okay, we have the tracking. We know for a fact that these young girls growing up in single mother households, they start menstruating at 9, 10, and 11 years old, other than which used to be the norm. We used to be, 14, 15, and 16. And the reason for that, of course, is 10,000 years of evolutionary biology. When there's no father around, the young girl, unconsciously, her body realizes there's no protection. There's no man. And so her body goes into overdrive, and it overrides the natural evolutionary process of her maturity. And she starts menstruating earlier. Her breasts start developing much younger. And this is all in the attempt of her body trying to respond to no father in the environment, so she can attract a man as soon as possible to take care of her.
Well, that may be the case, or it may be the case that we have environmental factors like the increased amount of fucking hormones that are in our foods and synthetic hormones that are in our plastic, which fucking all of our foods are contained in, also might stimulate the early development of,
That's true.
Maturity. So we can't, we don't really fucking know. I certainly don't know. Maybe it's a combination of both. I don't fucking know.
My buddy's kid, my buddy has a 10-year-old daughter. He started late in life. And he was telling me that they got her some special, she just turned 10, some special little underpanty for if that happens. She starts menstruating because she has friends that started in 5th grade or 4th grade. So yeah, I completely stand by the whole fact that her biology has to find a way to have a protection or whatever. So they begin early. There's no man around. There's no testosterone. There's no biology that's wired to show a strong man and a strong woman raising a family in terms of a mother and a father. And the environmental factors are everywhere. And when I was in South America in the early 90s, girls were getting pregnant at 11. I mean, they pumped those chickens up with hormones and antibiotics like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And once again, psychologists have told us that, hey, hysteria, it's valid now. Nobody goes into fucking a mental institution for hysteria anymore. They just fucking, have a female midlife crisis at whatever age they feel like, and they get cash and prizes for hysteria now.
They get attention. Yeah. They get attention talking about their mental instability, and it's become, again, who is the Sean Strickland guy? He's the MMA fighter. I don't know if you've seen his stuff lately, but
it's great.
He's getting interviewed by the Skittles guy, and he said, "Look, 10 years ago, this whole Transformer thing was considered a mental illness, and now it's respected like it's the highest, echelon of humanity."
Yep. Hey, True Blood, I'm going to drop out, let another brother, make room for another brother come in. That's all I wanted to contribute. And I thank you very much, sir, for your service. Thank you.
Thank you. And remember, guys, we're paying for this. Whether you're actually with a woman or not, you're paying for it. Whether you're with a crazy person of any gender, you're paying for it. They take your tax money. They charge you extra on your insurance to pay for people who can't. You're paying for it. And these people are a bunch of fucking frauds. They solve nothing and cause so many fucking problems. Their ideology is ruining society. It's ruined our schools.
Oh, absolutely. Did you see that one woke teacher got shit canned telling people of she was telling her kindergartners about the horrible United States, the horrible Israel, and that it needs to be wiped off the map. She just got shit canned. Black, a lesbian, non-binary teacher.
They shouldn't be around children.
Well, educate the educational system. My son goes to Utah State University. He told me there's 16 genders on the. He called me. He's like, Dad, I'm filling out this form for my housing, and it asked me what gender. There's 16 of them. I go, how many do you think there are? He said, Dad, there's 2.
Yeah.
The other 14 are a mental illness. And on it said one of the genders was furry. Furry.
I'm furry.
That identifies as a cat or a wolf they're called furries.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all as results oriented said. Men have been driven out, and most men that do stay, man, it would be tough. I had a teacher that was pretty good, my math teacher back in 8th grade, and you're right, it's all women run. Sunday schools are full of women teachers. You know, the whole thing is when the factories came about in the 30s and 40s, and when the men left the fields with their sons, because typically you would leave at 11 to 12 years old as a boy and go work in the fields with your dad. So you learn how to be a man. You learn how to be around other men. You grew up. You learn hard work. You learn how to sweat. And then everything moved to the cities. So mom was tasked to, get the kids off to school while dad went to the factory. And the whole biology of strong men started taking a back seat to mom was raising the kids. I mean, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And then Sunday school had women teachers, elementary, high school, 90% are women. So where boys are being told, we're being taught and raised by feminine influences. No wonder it's such a shit show now.
Yeah. It completely is. And as long as we continue to fund this approach, it's in our prison systems, it's in our justice systems, it's in our education systems, it's in developing policy, it's you name it, it's pernicious. These people are everywhere. They're like the arbiters of what's normal, and they're fucking lunatics. Everybody I've ever known who's gone into psychology or psychiatry has gone in for self-help. So we literally have the lunatics running the asylum. That used to just be a cliche, but now it's the truth. That's our reality now.
Look at our government, the head of human health services. Look at the guy that was just in charge of the director for the nuclear development stealing women's clothes. Yeah. Carousel. You have to be a freak show to work in the government now. You have to be whatever, you call yourself whatever, be a Karen on steroids when it comes to pronouns, and you'll get a job.
And it's not just the government now, it's all of corporate America now. You have to be tolerant of this type of behavior and embrace it, embrace your diversity, and embrace embrace these fucking 37 genders or whatever. You have to fucking get your ESG score up somehow by embracing insanity.
Yep. So again, I'm in healthcare. I do a lot of software, and now the software, if you go in the patient profile, which is, where your information is, your phone number and social security, now they have a gender box. And in the last 5 to 10 years, I've been watching the gender list continue to grow within these healthcare. And it's sad because the majority of healthcare professionals are ultimate libtards. They're feminists. They're male feminists. And there's very, very few conservative people within the healthcare groups. They all ran out and got the jabby. I think 70% got the jabby, 30% didn't. But it's sad. It's the programming that we have, Brandon, is the only thing you can do now, we can talk about it, we can help others and warn people about it, just to sit back and enjoy our lives watching it, because we're not going to make a damn bit of difference with relationships or changing the narrative. There might be a change of narrative if 45 gets in, but his hands are going to be tied quite a bit. I think it's the end of Rome. I think at this point, this is how Rome fell. If people really understand the greatest empire on earth was the Roman Empire and how they fell, pedophilia, they fell by debauchery, polyamory, all the shit that we're going through. That crap already existed back then. There were transformers back in the Roman Empire. Go read about Caligula, what he did.
Yeah.
That motherfucker they put those little pools on top of the buildings, 3 feet of water. He'd be in there with a bunch of little 12-year-old boys and girls swimming around. And he liked being touched. And then when he was done, he'd throw them off the roof and they died. Caligula. Again, it fell. It fell. So we've already fallen. We have already fallen. Are you kidding me? Big Pharma has destroyed mentality. This is all planned. Get as much anxiety medication and depress and make people think they're antidepressed so we can rewire the brain. They say that birth control is a huge contributing factor to lesbianism.
Yeah. Makes the birth control, what it does is it makes the women think they're pregnant the entire fucking time they're on it. Their bodies think they're pregnant. That's why they don't get pregnant. Imagine spending your life fucking knocked up. They don't make decisions like a normal woman would make. They make fucking pregnant woman decisions. And if anybody's ever been around a pregnant woman, you don't let her fucking decide anything other than what fucking color you want to paint the nursery.
No, they're nuts. I had my ex-wife pregnant 3 times. They go, you stay away.
And we gave them the fucking vote. Yeah. And we gave them the power to hire and fire people in HR. Wonderful. Good thinking. Anyways.
What's interesting is, you've seen the movie The Purge, right? There's 3 or 4.
I've never seen it, but I read the book.
A great movie, and you get 24 hours to take out whoever you don't like, right? Basically, you go after the people you don't like, and it's you're free to do it, but you only have 24 hours. I would like a purge. I would like a purge.
Oh, if somebody could purge Manlotopia, he just called Frost a trans, so fuck you.
What happened? What's going on? We were talking you sent me a text a couple of weeks ago about what's going on in our spaces.
I'll talk to you about it offline. I don't want to bring the fight up online.
I've seen it multiple different channels, people talking about it. I think Dak brought it up, but I don't know if it's been brought up.
I've recently taken a position of not mentioning it anymore. I'm not going to give any more clicks.
I think that's smart. Did you mention MGTOW Life before I got on?
Oh no, I haven't. But God bless him, and may he rest in peace.
He was 7 months older than me. We would chat. I mean, he was like one of the originals that was watching me back when. It's just a sweet man. Just, he was full on MGTOW monk. He was a twin brother. So he had a twin that also rode bikes. And the good thing about him is he had really good insurance and he had really good care. I knew the hospitals he was at and the oncology group that he was going to. He had terrific insurance, and it wasn't a matter of him not having that or not having the treatment or the care. He was telling me what he went through and beat it the first time. And all I can think is it was his time. And we lost a brother, and his legacy will live on. But like Frank, like Vincent, like everybody else, there's a piece of us that go with them when they go. And
yeah, I never even knew the man. I didn't know he existed until Freaky Jersey Tales got a hold of me and asked for a prayer stream.
Yeah, well, he was one of Hammer's wrenches back in the day.
Yeah.
Good guy, just lived in California and loved his motorcycles. You can go watch on his channel some of his when he'd get in some new chrome or some saddlebags or whatever. But he obviously had a kid, and he'd gone through marriage and divorce and everything that we went through, and he lived the remaining of his life doing what he loved, riding up and down the California. He rode at Sturgis one year, told me about that. So again, man, you got to make the best of anything that come out of difficult situations. We've all been in them, man. There's days when I was in the throes of darkness and I didn't know if I was going to make it. I mean, I knew I would, but you're under so much pressure and just everything just doesn't feel right. But we did it, and we're here to help others. Every time I'm on my stream, I tell the gang, look, we have now, 7 years later, people that stream every single day. Remember 7 years ago, there wasn't a lot of streamers, very little. It wasn't a big thing, but every day you're on, every day Hammers 3-4 times a week. You've got everybody else doing it. Father Saunders, Scotty Sides on Friday. I've caught one. Everybody, and there's tons of other MGTOW Outlaw. I think MGTOW Cowboy, Polska Bob. Everybody's out. You can hook on to a group if you're having a struggle.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
And there's a lot of people who just need somebody to hang out with, and that's what we provide these days. And I think it helps.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I'm usually lurk your streams when you're in the day because I'm doing work, but I'll catch on. It's funny. Sometimes nobody says anything, and then you got hamstered in this thing, and you have a place to feel connected to other men that share, similar experiences or need some counsel that might be younger, that need help with direct. I get calls all the time by 30-year-old, 25-year-olds, 24-year-olds, and hey, what do you think about this? I'm going through this at work. What does that mean? Well, that doesn't mean what you think it means. It means you get the hell away from any woman that's trying to get your bazooka, and you stay the hell away from that. But these are invaluable streams, Brandon. I mean, you spend 12 hours a day, 30 days a month going. I don't think you stream Sunday. You might, but
sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
We have no. I mean, we just. This is a great group. I mean, you can listen to Coach Greg Adams if that's your flavor. He does spout information to help guys stay away from bullshit. He says other things that I don't agree with, but there's all sorts of men. There's got Terrence Pop that does it. Sandman. I don't think he does a lot, but there is so much content now that guys can literally pick themselves back up. Pros before hoes. Boats and hoes.
Yeah, and most of the time on my stream, we don't talk about fucking females at all. Sometimes there's days when the guys get stuck on it and I have to go, hey, stop it. But most of the time we just talk about life and whatever I see on the road. And
yeah.
Or whatever's on somebody else's mind. And, there's a hell of a lot more to life than worrying about. Yeah.
Well, that's, that it's great that you say that, because we as men are biologically programmed to spread our seed, which means to lay with women, right? It's biological. So when we see an attractive woman, great. But we have to remind men, these are chameleons. These are people today that will destroy your life quicker than the last 300 years of women and men relationships. It's not worth it. I can predict the time and the amount of bullshit and pain you will go through just by, the gals today. They're not loyal. They're not, it's just put all of that loyalty into the person that's staring back at you from the mirror. You'll have a much better time. And sure, we do talk about certain things. I mean, I bring it up on my channel. I talk about, reminding men. Oh, I've had, I don't know, you probably get emails too, but guys are like, yeah, I was with this gal and I just found your channel and she cheated on me. Why'd she do that? Because she can. She's not yours. It's just your turn. You got to drill this into your head. You've got to remove all of that. You have to understand that to seek a woman is quicksand.
You also have to understand, if you're having the anxiety, if you're having depression, if you're having almost any quote unquote mental disorder, the only person who can fix that is you. You have to make up your mind to do that. I had depression for a while. And first, I tried living the high life. I tried external fucking validation.
Sure.
That didn't work.
Most do.
Then I gave up on life until I found some content creators who gave me a message that life was worth living, and and then once I discovered that, no longer am I thinking about fucking just indulging myself until there's no more Brandon left. So,
we found purpose. At the end of the day,
I found purpose.
We don't do this for validation. We don't do this for money. We do this for purpose, which is, I wish I had this 30 years ago. I wish I knew this. It's the medicine is all psychological. If you are going to digest a red pill philosophy, you have to understand it's all psychological. And as you mentioned, you were down and out, and then you found some creation. You realize that your story is very similar, that you're not the only one going through this. And you begin to form this barrier around you, and you get stronger and stronger and realize, holy shit, man, I've been looking at the wrong thing for my whole life, looking at being in a relationship or being married or you putting a woman on a pedestal, and you realize all that shit is all programming. And once you knock that off and put yourself up, it's amazing what people can do.
Yeah. Set a goal. Make it a small one at first, and make them bigger and bigger and bigger until you're, just knocking them out.
Well, 100%.
Then all of a sudden, you don't have to worry about your anxiety or your depression anymore.
It goes away.
Happy with yourself as you are, because you're being successful, not to anybody else's goals, but to your own. You've discovered how to live a purpose-driven life at that point.
It's funny. I got a couple friends. Most of my friends are married that I've went to high school and college with. Some are on their second, third marriages, but they keep saying, "Hey, Rad, you're going to be moving here, selling your place, and you drive down to Mexico and live and do that." That's the goal. And you know what they say? "Oh my gosh, you need a woman. You're going to be alone." These are my friends that I've known for 35 years. "You're going to be alone. You need to be with somebody." I go, "Hey, it's great. It's great to talk to other people and be part of a tribe, if you will. But I'm happy as a clam driving, meeting people along the way, but there's a lot of people that can't do that. And I understand that. And there's a lot of people that get depressed. They think they're depressed because what they're doing is seeking external validation. And once they take that out of their equation, and put the internal validation as the number one pedestal in their life, then, as you mentioned, it'll evaporate. But it's most men today have anxiety or depression because they're seeking the validation of who? A woman. Or their peers to tell them they got a great woman, whatever. But it's always somebody else.
Yeah. Well, Rad, we have gone over an hour, and I'm kind of fading. So I'd like to thank you and everybody else who participated. I'd especially like to thank Hemi 4-Speed, MGTOW Values, Rusty Rivers, everybody who's been on tonight. If I've forgotten anybody, I humbly apologize. I'm an old man. So
get back in your camper.
Well, the dog has been barking at me to come to bed. He knows.
All right, we'll catch you tomorrow.
And remember, no marriage, no cohabitation, and no children.
Yeah.
Peace out, brothers. And
right, see you, brother.
Don't get suckered into the mental health fucking industry fucking bullshit. And give them nothing. Good night.
Good night.